many, Cape York is the last bastion of adventure, a place so far removed from the everyday hustle and bustle of Australia, pointing your spotlights north feels like you've travelled to another country. And when you consider the sheer distances involved, you may as well have. While decades of mining on the west coast has brought development and blacktop to many of the main tracks, it hasn't removed that Wild West frontier experience, not by a long shot. Just getting to the start of the iconic telegraph track requires thousands of kilometres of remote driving, hundreds of kilometres of shock-busting corrugations, half a dozen roadhouse burgers, and plenty of river crossings. That is, of course, if you go the fun way. To say that Cape York is the perfect proving ground is little like saying camper trailers make travel a more rewarding experience, an understatement of epic proportions. Over the years through the Cape, I've seen campers suffer water ingress, floated across rivers, busted suspension, animal strikes, and plenty of cracked chassis. It eats up and spits out inferior gear, and sent plenty of people home with their tail between their legs and they're set up on a tilt tray. But Mars campers are out to change the idea of what makes a quality camper trailer, that you don't need to spend a house deposit to get out there and explore Australia. And we were there to find out just how they'd fare. We met up with the team from Mars Campers just south of the Daintree Rainforest on one of the most spectacular drives in the country. The four-wheel drives were loaded, diesel tanks topped up, and fridges filled before heading north through Cape Tribulation. The first test the Mars Spirit would face was the battle of weight. After a stunning night croc spotting at Cape Tribulation, we started the long climb up across the Great Dividing Range through the Bloomfield track. In the wet, it's almost impassable. In the dry, it still requires plenty of momentum on the long, steep climbs. At 1,400 kilos, the Spirit proved light enough the Mars Prado could easily muscle it around without grief. What goes up must come down. So not long after we crested the ascent, the Spirit was put to the test again on the steep descent down to the iconic Lions Den Hotel. After a feed and a few tall tales, we snaked our way through Cooktown before arriving at camp to watch the sunset over the coloured sands. It was our first real chance to explore the Spirit forward fold, and after a few thousand k's of dirt no less. The first thing that stands out about the Spirit is how well it's finished. Where budget price used to mean budget quality, that's simply no longer the fact. Mars don't like to use the term dustproof, but after countless hours of bull dust and corrugations, the Spirit's internals looked factory fresh. Like a typical forward fold, the Spirit proved quick and easy to set up each night. Picking a camp spot was easy, as it sets up in its own footprint, and with the awning able to stay attached when packed up, just made it that bit easier again. The camp kitchen proved a huge attraction too. With plenty of bench space, the Mars crew were easily able to put on a banquet every night. There's nothing like camping a million miles from anywhere with a fresh plate of barbecue pork. From here we packed up the campers and headed west along Battle Camp Road, A popular route for the more adventurous, Battle Camp Road saw us snake our way through unending mountain ranges and pulling up for lunch at a remote station long since abandoned. The road and our journey on it ended with a wide open savanna. As the sun erupted across the landscape, we made our way back to the Peninsula Development Road, ready to start the journey north. After an evening of celebrations and late night singing, we found ourselves pointing the spotlights into the Telly track. Fruitbat Falls and Elliott Falls drew our focus for far too long, but not a single complaint was heard. Of course, between the two lays the infamous Scrubby Creek, a 100-metre long, bonnet-deep river crossing with water as mysterious as what lays below. After attaching the obligatory recovery straps, should things turn pear-shaped, Mars lined up and took on the crossing. As the Prado scrabbled for traction, the Spirit followed diligently. Inspection on the other side proved its mettle too. Despite being half submerged in water, not a drop made it inside. Moving north, we were able to push the Spirit suspension to its limits. While the endless corrugations had shown it could deal with extensive torture, it was yet to prove itself in technical off-road terrain. From Elliott Falls along the old telegraph track, we faced a series of challenges, from intricate river crossings to off-camber sections and steep rutted climbs. The Spirit followed the Prado effortlessly. The suspension and off-road coupling allowing it to flex its way through the challenging terrain without a second thought. Before the journey was over, the Spirit would face challenge after challenge, from the rocky inland tracks along the 5 beaches to deep water and winding roads through the heart of the tip. The journey culminated in that prize every northbound traveller has their eyes on, that iconic sign and the most northerly point in mainland Australia. With the track ending and forward progress with both camper and four-wheel drive halted, we set out on foot for that final climb over the spur. After weeks on the road, it was the perfect culmination for our adventures. Long days, late nights, and a journey that'd leave marks on our four-wheel drives and minds for life, all ending with that one final photo. Of course, the job wasn't done yet, only half so in fact. Before we could call it good, the long journey home had to be undertaken. A grueling few days return down the corrugations of the Peninsula Development Road before the long isolated expanses of Western Queensland. In a market flooded with campers, it's refreshing to come across a manufacturer who believes in their product so strongly they're willing to push it to the extreme to prove it. Despite such an affordable price tag, the Mars Spirit proved once and for all you don't need deep pockets to see Australia. All you need is a quality camper and the spirit of adventure.